Howdy, folks, and welcome to Saddle Sixgun, your channel for tales from the Wild West, especially stories that resonate with those of us who have seen a few sunrises and sunsets, shall we? We're talking to you, friends aged 30 to 75, especially those of us over 40. If you are as excited to hear about the Wild West stories as I am, do me a favor and tap on that like button below to show that you approve. Today's story takes us to the Texas Territory, west of Abalene, in the spring of 1876. Imagine the vast, endless sky stretching above the dusty main street of Cold Creek. A town maybe too small for the proper reach of the law, but too stubborn, too full of life, to just give up and die. It's the kind of place where folks make their own rules, right or wrong. You know the type, tough, weathered, and not afraid to look hard times right in the eye. In those days, finding your place, finding your purpose, could be a hardscrabble business, especially for a woman alone. But the West had a funny way of throwing folks together, sometimes in ways they never expected. That's the kind of story we aim to tell here on Saddle Sixgun. Have you ever found yourself in a place where you did not expect to be, but it ended up helping you? The wind kicks up grit and whispers of secrets between the old, weather-worn buildings. Dust devils dance down the street like restless spirits. Now, picture this, under the shade of Jeb Carter's feed and auction house, a crowd has gathered. Some are curious, others, well, let's just say they're drawn to the kind of spectacle a frontier town might allow without batting an eye. Human nature, ain't it? Always something draws a crowd. It might not be pretty, but people show up anyway. And right there, on a rough-hewn wooden platform, stands a woman named Clara. I cannot help but think of the times that I wish I could just get away for a moment from something that is happening right in front of me, but I know I cannot. Clara stands with her wrists folded, jaw set tight. You can tell she's trying to hold herself together, but her heart's beating like a trapped bird. That dress she's wearing, once her finest, now hangs tired on her frame. Dust clings to the hem like a stubborn memory. She's 25 years old, a widow for 3 years, and for the last 8 months, something even worse. Unwanted. Let's pause here and ask ourselves, what kind of circumstances lead a person, especially a woman, to be treated like livestock? And what kind of strength does it take to face such a situation head-on? If you're enjoying this story so far, and you believe in the resilience of the human spirit, please like or subscribe to Saddle Sixgun. It really helps us get these stories out to folks who appreciate them. Jeb Carter, the auctioneer, speaks with a voice rasping over the crowd like a wet stone. She ain't got no childbearing muse. It's a harsh statement, delivered with a callousness that makes you cringe. But he adds with a slight pause, but she can cook, clean, sew, and keep her mouth shut. Let's start at $10. The crowd murmurs. Some men chuckle, others elbow each other, a few spit to the side, feigning disinterest while eyeing her like cattle. Clara's fingers dig into her palms, hard enough to draw blood if she held on long enough. It's a scene that speaks volumes about the brutal realities faced by women in that time, when their value was often tied to their ability to bear children. Have times really changed all that much? Share your thoughts in the comments. A mother near the front whispers to her boy, "Look away." But nobody truly looks away. Not really. Not when humiliation comes dressed up as justice. Behind that calm face, Clara feels a storm brewing. Her late husband's family had blamed her for the silence in the cradle, called her cursed. They sold off her things, then they sold her name. She's become less than a woman, less than a wife, and now less than a person. It's hard to imagine the weight of that kind of rejection, the feeling of being reduced to nothing. I find it very challenging to believe, or understand, how people are mistreated and devalued by others, because of their own personal issues and insecurities. $8, someone shouts. $6, another counters, laughing. Hell, I'll give $2 and a button if she don't talk. The crowd roars. Clara closes her eyes for a moment, just long enough to pretend she isn't there. And then the voice comes, cutting through the noise like a rifle shot. "I'll pay 20. Every head turns. A man stands near the edge of the boardwalk, one arm wrapped around a baby, the other resting on the worn strap of a leather satchel. His clothes are plain but clean. Boots dusty but well kept. His presence is quiet, but it holds weight, like someone who doesn't speak unless he means to be heard. Clara opens her eyes and finds his. Isn't it often the case that the ones who speak the loudest have nothing worth hearing? He doesn't look away. Someone mutters, "That's Ethan Carrion, rancher out by Twin Ridge. His wife died last winter." The baby in his arms stirs. A girl, not more than 6 months old, with tufts of dark hair and sleepy eyes. "What the hell does he want with a barren woman?" someone sneers. Ethan ignores it. He steps forward. "I said 20 in silver." It's a bold move, one that throws the whole auction into confusion. What could a widower with a baby want with a woman who can't bear children? What do you think is in this man's heart? The silence that follows isn't shock. It's confusion, suspicion. A good man doesn't buy a woman, and if he does, he sure as hell doesn't overpay. Jeb Carter clears his throat. 20 it is. Sold." Clara doesn't move. Ethan walks up to the platform, shifting the baby to one arm. He looks up at Clara, and his voice lowers. "Not just for her alone, but for anyone who still dares to listen. You ain't a thing to be bought, ma'am. But you looked like you needed a way out, and I've got a house that's missing more than just a cook. So, we are halfway through the story, but do not let the story end without liking this video, as it is very important to me." Clara stares at him. The baby blinks up at her with eyes that hold no judgment. Then, Ethan does something no one expects. He takes off his hat. And he says gently, "Name's Ethan. This here's Kelly. We'd be honored if you came home with us." In that moment, the crowd fades. All Clara can see is a man who doesn't see her as broken, a man who holds a child like the world hasn't hardened him yet. For the first time in a long while, she feels something other than shame. Maybe, just maybe, even hope. And with that, the next chapter of Clara's life begins. What does it mean? What does it mean to you when someone takes their hat off to you as a sign of respect? If stories like this stir something in your chest, go ahead and tap that hype button. It lets us know your heart's still out riding the range with us. The Carrion Ranch lies nestled between the waving grass of open plains and the jagged breath of distant mountains. Wind whispers through the mesquite and cottonwoods, and the low bellow of cattle echoes in the wide valley like ghosts calling home. The house stands modest but solid, whitewashed wood, a wraparound porch, and smoke curling from the chimney like a quiet promise. Clara sits stiff in the wagon seat as they roll through the front gate. She is probably wondering where she is, what she will be asked to do, and if she will be treated fairly. Her hands are folded in her lap, the worn fabric of her skirt twisted between nervous fingers. The house, the land, the man beside her. It all feels too big, too quiet, too uncertain. Ethan has said little during the ride, only pausing to check on Kelly, who now sleeps peacefully wrapped against his chest. There's no chain on Clara's ankle, no threat in his voice, but still, she's been owned once before. She's probably wondering when the other shoe will drop. Do you think that she should run? She steps down from the wagon slowly as Ethan unhitches the horses. He nods toward the door. It's warmer inside. I'll bring in your things. Clara doesn't move. What do you want me to do? Ethan turns, his voice plain. Help where you can, mostly with Kelly. That's all. She follows the creak of the porch boards, the groan of the screen door, into a home that smells of firewood and leather, milk, and something sweet beneath it all. Maybe hope, if hope had a scent. The first room holds a stone fireplace, 2 old chairs, a cradle tucked against the wall. The cradle's edge is worn from rocking but lovingly carved. Clara's eyes linger on it. She won't sleep in it, Ethan says quietly behind her. Keeps crying unless I hold her. He looks down. I ain't much good with her yet. Clara says nothing. She walks over, looks down at the sleeping baby. Kelly's tiny chest rises and falls with impossible softness. Her lashes are long, her fingers curled like promises not yet spoken. Clara hesitates, then reaches in and gently lifts the child. Kelly stirs. Clara freezes. Then the baby looks up and smiles. Not gas, not confusion, a real, toothless, radiant smile that cracks something open inside Clara's chest. Her arms instinctively tighten, pulling Kelly closer. She likes you, Ethan says with something like wonder in his voice. I don't know anything about babies, Clara whispers. She don't know that. Babies seem to know when someone cares for them, because they are very sensitive to energy. The moment passes in silence, warm and unsure. That night, Clara sits in the old rocking chair by the hearth, Kelly asleep in her arms. She'd meant to lay the baby down, but somehow she hasn't moved, not for hours. From the corner of her eye, she watches Ethan in the small kitchen, struggling to prepare a bottle. He drops the spoon, spills the milk, curses softly under his breath. He isn't graceful. He isn't sure, but he never stops trying. Later, after the bottle warms, he takes Kelly from her arms and tries to rock her. Clara watches him hum tunelessly, bouncing awkwardly. Kelly fusses and wriggles. Ethan looks lost. She likes when you whisper, Clara offers. Ethan smiles, exhausted. That right? He tries it. And slowly, Kelly calms. That night, Clara lays awake on the cot in the small guest room. Outside, the wind howls over the prairie like a wild thing. Inside, all is still, and she thinks about the man with calloused hands who has offered her a home without asking for anything back, about the baby who smiles without judgment, about how, for the first time in years, her touch has mattered. She could leave tomorrow. No one would stop her. But in the stillness, she realizes she doesn't want to go. Not yet. Maybe not ever. She isn't there out of need. She's there because of a baby's smile and because something deep inside her whispers, you still have worth. You still belong. If you are interested in stories about what it really means to belong, why not like and subscribe to Wild West Love Stories now? The week slips by like wind across the high grass, unnoticed until you look up and see how far the shadows have shifted. On the Carrion Ranch, days begin with the crow of a rooster and end with the soft creak of a cradle, and in the quiet in between, something wordless begins to grow. Ethan spends most mornings in the pasture, mending fences or riding the range. Clara learns to bake bread again, to boil milk without scalding it, and to soothe Kelly when she whimpers from nightmares only babies can see. Their rhythm isn't rehearsed. It simply happens. One overcast afternoon, Ethan returns early and finds Clara sewing by the hearth while Kelly naps. The scent of something warm and buttery fills the house. She slept through the thunder, Clara says, not looking up. I think she trusts the storm now. Ethan nods slowly. You got that effect, I reckon. He doesn't elaborate. He rarely does. But as the storm rolls in heavier that night, Clara finds herself wondering what storms he's lived through. The answer comes without warning. A few days later, they're sitting on the porch, watching lightning dance along the far ridge. Kelly coos in Clara's arms, her tiny hands reaching up to catch the rain that hasn't come yet. Ethan clears his throat. My wife's name was Annabelle. Clara turns her head. Past birthing Kelly. Bled too fast, too much. He looks down at his boots. Didn't even get to hold her. Clara's voice is soft. I'm sorry. Ethan gives a slow nod. I was angry at God, at myself. Thought if I'd done one thing different that day, she'd still be here. Silence stretches between them. She wanted a girl. Always said she'd name her Kelly if we ever had one. Clara rocks gently. She would have been proud of you. Ethan gives a dry laugh. You ain't seen me try to change a diaper. I've seen worse, Clara says, and smiles. The next evening, Clara finds herself standing by the fence line as Ethan wrestles a crooked post into place. Rain falls in soft sheets, soaking his shirt, plastering his hair to his brow. He works without complaint. Clara returns to the house and comes back with his coat, holding it out. He looks up, surprised. You'll catch cold. He takes it, nodding. Thank you. It wasn't much, but it was more than nothing. It can be really helpful for someone to offer a small token of kindness or support during a challenging time. Later that week, Clara is rocking Kelly to sleep when the baby fusses louder than usual. Clara tries humming, but her voice cracks. Tears come unexpected and sharp. She tries to turn away, hide it, but footsteps approach. Ethan doesn't speak. He doesn't ask. He just sits beside her. The fire crackles. Kelly settles. Clara weeps in silence, not for what she's lost, but for what she might still deserve. In the dim glow of the hearth, she whispers, "They called me barren, like land after a drought, useless, dry." Ethan doesn't move, but something in his posture softens. "You're not," he says, almost too quiet to hear. The next morning begins like any other. Ethan out with the horses. Clara in the kitchen with Kelly, humming as she mashes apples into pulp. She turns for just a moment to stir the pot on the stove. Then Kelly screams. The kind of scream that doesn't belong to hunger or sleep. Clara spins around and freezes. A rattlesnake, long and dark, has slithered up onto the windowsill and dropped silently into the room. Its tongue flicks as it coils near the cradle, eyes fixed on Kelly, who now sobs in terror. Clara doesn't think. She grabs the iron skillet from the stovetop, still hot, and lunges. One strike, then another, then another. The snake writhes and hisses. But Clara doesn't stop until it lies still, motionless, its body broken beside the cradle. She drops the skillet, breath ragged, hands shaking. Kelly reaches up for her. Clara scoops her up, presses the child to her chest, rocks her back and forth, murmuring something, not words, but instinct. Kelly quiets, nestling in as if she'd never been afraid. Ethan bursts through the door moments later, rifle in hand. I heard his eyes fall on the dead snake, then on Clara, holding his daughter like something sacred. He doesn't speak. He doesn't have to. Clara looks down at Kelly and realizes something has shifted. This isn't just a child she's helping with. This is her girl now. Whether by blood or not, a bond has been sealed. Not by law, but by choice. And for the first time since arriving, Clara no longer feels like she's borrowing someone else's life. She's living her own. Cold Creek is small, but its gossip travels fast. Faster than horses, faster than reason, and far more dangerous. Within 2 weeks of Clara arriving at the Carrion Ranch, her name has become a common refrain beneath whiskey breath and behind lace curtains. They say he bought her at the feed house, one woman whispers in the general store. And she can't even bear children, another adds, shaking her head as she weighs potatoes. What kind of man wants a barren woman when he's got a baby to raise? The men are worse. Must be real lonely out there on that ranch. A ranch hand chuckles to his friends on the saloon steps. You'd think a man like Carrion could do better. They laugh. Ethan doesn't come into town often. He has no taste for crowds, especially ones that turn on a dime. But word reaches him. It always does. And Clara. Clara feels it more than she hears it, in the way people stop talking when she enters the mercantile, in the side glances and the too sweet smiles, in the rustling shift of conversation just behind her back. She bears it silently for days, carrying Kelly through town with her chin high, trying not to notice the looks. But inside, old wounds open. The same ones that had bled when her husband's family cast her out, the same voices whispering that she's less of a woman. One night, as she tucks Kelly into her cradle, she sits a moment longer than usual, watching the baby's chest rise and fall, watching her fingers twitch in sleep like dreams are dancing through them. Ethan finds her in the dark, unmoving. "You're thinking about leaving," he says. Clara doesn't answer at first, then softly, "I don't belong here, Ethan. Not to them, not to you." He comes closer but doesn't touch her. "You don't belong to anyone, Clara, but that doesn't mean you don't belong somewhere." The next day, Ethan rides into town. He ties his horse outside the saloon just as the usual suspects lounge in their usual spots, sipping brown liquor and spitting brown lies. "You come to buy another one?" someone jokes, raising a glass. Ethan turns slowly. The air shifts. He steps forward, boots thudding heavy on the wooden steps, stopping just beneath the awning. "She's under my roof," he says, voice steady but sharp. "She watches my child. She cooks my meals. She listens when I speak and speaks when she damn well pleases." The men fall quiet. "If any of you has something worth saying, say it to me, not behind her back. Otherwise, you can keep your teeth shut." A long silence stretches across the porch. Inside the saloon, chairs scrape quietly against the floor. No one wants to be the one Ethan Carrion is looking at when his patience runs dry. One man, older, missing 2 fingers in all his courage, tries to laugh it off. "We meant no harm, Carrion, just teasing." Ethan's eyes narrow. "You want to tease someone? Find another target. Clara has done nothing but show more grace than any man in this town." He waits. No one speaks again. Then he turns and walks away. The wind picks up as he mounts his horse and rides back toward the ranch. That evening, Clara stands on the porch, arms wrapped tight around herself. She sees him ride in, dismount, and tie the reins with practiced ease. "You went to town," she says. He nods. Her voice trembles. "What did they say?" "Not much," Ethan replies. "Not anymore." Clara looks at him, then really looks, and in his stillness, she sees something stronger than fists or fury. She sees a man who didn't just defend her name. He claimed it. Not like a possession, but like a promise. No man had ever done that, not even her husband. Her throat tightens. "I don't know what to say." Ethan shrugs. "Don't say anything." But she steps closer, her voice barely a whisper. "Thank you." He looks down at her, eyes steady. "You're not alone here, Clara. Not anymore." In the silence that follows, something shifts between them. Not spoken, not touched, but understood. And for the first time in her life, Clara feels what it is to be truly protected. The wind howls long before the rain comes, bending trees like prayers toward the ground. Thunder cracks over the plains, loud enough to rattle dishes in the cupboard. The sky turns black by afternoon, and by dusk the storm has found its rage. Lightning lights the hills, revealing the outline of broken fences and panicked cattle. Ethan is already in the barn when Clara hears the first snap of a splintered beam. She rushes out without a coat, skirts clinging to her legs, rain stinging her face like needles. In the distance, she can see Ethan struggling to pull a steer from a collapsed section of the fence, mud up to his knees. "Ethan," she calls through the storm. He doesn't look up. He's too focused, muscles straining as he tries to coax the animal free without spooking it worse. Another bolt of lightning cracks nearby, and the cattle shriek. Clara doesn't hesitate. She waits through muck and wind and joins him, grabbing a rope, anchoring the gate. Together, they move as one. No plan, just instinct. Survival. By the time the herd is calm and the worst of the damage is patched, they're soaked through and shivering. Ethan limps slightly, a gash on his thigh, but refuses help. They return to the house in silence, dripping and numb. Clara lights the fire with shaking hands. Ethan sits heavily beside it, boots left at the door, steam rising from his clothes. Kelly, somehow still asleep in the back room, is the only thing untouched by the storm. Clara brings Ethan a dry towel and drops onto the floor beside him, too tired to care about propriety. Her hands are scraped, her hair stuck to her cheek, and her bones ache with a kind of weariness that runs deeper than the body. For a long time, neither of them speaks. Only the crackle of the fire fills the room. Then Ethan exhales slowly. I thought I lost one of them tonight. Big one. Red steer. Got pinned under the fence. He looks down. All I could think was, Kelly, if something happened to me out there. His voice breaks in a way Clara has never heard before, raw, quiet. She's all I've got. Clara watches the flames dance in the hearth, then says, barely audible, I used to think being barren meant I had nothing to give, like I was empty, cursed. Ethan doesn't turn away. But Kelly doesn't care about that, she whispers. And neither do you. Do you? He shakes his head slowly. Not one damn bit. For a while, they sit like that, so close their shoulders almost touch, but still careful, still guarded by scars not easily spoken. Then Ethan reaches over and lays his hand gently on hers. No pressure, no promise, just presence. Clara looks down at their joined hands. His rough from ranch work, hers cracked from cold water and washboards. They don't fit perfectly, but they don't have to. His thumb brushes hers once. She doesn't pull away. She leans her head back against the wall, closes her eyes, and lets the warmth of the fire and his touch settle the tremble in her chest. Neither of them says, I need you. But both feel it, and for the first time, it doesn't feel like weakness. It feels like truth. The stillness of dawn is broken by the distant crack of hooves. Too many to be cattle. Clara is in the kitchen when she hears it. Not thunder, not weather, riders. Ethan is already saddled up before she reaches the door. Stay inside, he says, eyes locked on the horizon. Take Kelly. Barricade the back door. What is it? Rustlers. 3, maybe 4. They've been working ranches north of here. Looks like it's our turn. Clara's breath catches. She grabs Kelly from her cradle, wraps the baby tight in a wool shawl, and rushes to the cellar steps. She pauses just long enough to retrieve the rifle from above the hearth, Ethan's older one, heavier than she remembers, but loaded. She can barely steady her hands. Outside, gunfire cracks. The ground trembles beneath the pounding of hooves. Clara holds Kelly close in the cellar, heart pounding louder than the storm had days before. A scream. No, Ethan. She sets Kelly down gently in a basket of laundry, kisses her forehead, then climbs out of the cellar with the rifle clenched tight in her hands. The sight on the front lawn stops her breath. Ethan has taken cover behind the water trough, blood seeping from a gash on his temple. One of the rustlers has circled around and now stands with his gun drawn, preparing to fire. Clara doesn't think. She raises the rifle, steps onto the porch, and shouts, "Hey!" The man turns just as Clara fires a shot into the dirt at his feet. He jumps back, startled, losing his aim. Ethan lunges from behind the trough, tackles him, and wrestles the gun free. Another rider sees the commotion and takes off toward the gate. Within moments, the fight is over. 2 men tied up, one fled, one wounded, groaning by the fence. Ethan stands, breathing heavy, blood dripping from his brow, and turns toward the porch. Clara still holds the rifle, arms trembling. "I didn't mean to." She begins, but he's already moving toward her. "You did exactly what you had to," he says. "You saved me." The wind picks up, scattering dust across the yard. Word of the attack spreads quickly through Cold Creek. By the next afternoon, folks from town arrive to see the aftermath. The sheriff, late as always, takes the prisoners into custody. But the real story, what sticks in people's mouths like splinters, is Clara. She shot at a man, protected the ranch. Carrion's girl didn't even cry, they say, just watched her mama save the day. Mama. The word finds its way around the saloon, through the general store, even to the preacher's steps. The same townsfolk who once whispered Clara was useless now say her spine is steel. But Clara doesn't care about their talk anymore. That night, as she holds Kelly and rocks slowly by the fire, Ethan sits beside her with a stitched brow and silent admiration. "You didn't just save me," he says at last. "You saved all of this." Clara looks around the walls, the cradle, the man beside her, and she realizes he's right. This isn't just his land anymore. It's theirs. 3 days after the gunfire faded, a letter arrives by stagecoach, its envelope stiff and foreign in Clara's hands. She opens it slowly on the porch, eyes scanning the elegant cursive of a woman she'd once worked with in Fort Worth, a distant cousin to her late husband's family. The message is clear: "We heard of your situation. We could use help in the house, room and board, fair pay, quiet company, a fresh start." It's polite, kind even, and it offers her something Clara hasn't felt since her wedding day: social legitimacy, a way out of the whispers, a place to be seen as useful without the baggage of Cold Creek's past or the strange truths of her present. That evening, she stands by the fireplace, letter folded in her apron, words weighing heavy on her tongue. "I got a job offer," she says finally. Ethan looks up from oiling the hinges on Kelly's cradle. He doesn't speak, just waits. In Fort Worth, they want a housemaid. Nothing special, but it's a clean slate. Across the room, Kelly sits on the rug with her wooden toy, babbling to herself. She looks up when Clara says, "Fort Worth," her brows furrowing in confusion. Clara kneels down. "Just for a while, sweetheart. Maybe. I don't know yet." Kelly crawls over and clings to Clara's skirt, soft whimpers rising. "It's all right," Clara whispers, stroking her hair. "You're all right." But Kelly won't let go. Ethan stands. "You don't owe us anything," he says gently. "Not me, not her. You deserve happiness, Clara, wherever that may be." She looks at him. His shirt sleeves are rolled, hands still stained with oil and soil. Those hands have saved her more than once now, sometimes without even touching her. He doesn't plead. He doesn't beg. He only waits. That feeling that everything is being left up to your choice, that you can choose to move forward or just stay in place, is very liberating, but at the same time, can be very scary. At night, Clara lies awake listening to the sounds of the ranch, the creak of old wood, the wind pushing against the window pane, the soft breath of a child asleep in the next room. She stares at the ceiling, the letter resting on her chest like a stone. Fort Worth is clean, safe, expected. But as her eyes flutter shut, all she can see is Kelly's little hands reaching for her. All she can feel is the quiet weight of Ethan's presence at her side, every time the world grows too loud. Morning comes with a soft light creeping through the cracks in the shutters. Clara folds the letter again, but this time she slides it into the fire. It curls and blackens, the ink vanishing before the flames. She turns just as Ethan walks in, coffee mug in hand, surprised by the scent of burning paper. "You made your choice," he says softly. Clara nods. "I'm not leaving." Ethan holds her gaze for a long, still moment. Then, finally, he smiles, not with triumph, but with something much quieter. Relief. A year passes like the turning of a season, quiet, steady, full of unnoticed miracles. The Carrion Ranch breathes with new life. Fences stand strong. The barn wears a fresh coat of red. The pasture swells with healthy cattle, and the vegetable garden behind the house, once half forgotten, now blooms in riotous color under Clara's steady hand. Inside, the air smells of bread and laughter. Clara moves through the house with quiet purpose, her voice soft as she hums lullabies to a now toddling Kelly, who follows close behind with a wobble in her step and a ribbon always coming loose in her hair. Mama. Kelly will cry when she wants to be held, and Clara never hesitates, not once. In town, the whispers have changed. The same women who once judged now watch Clara with different eyes as she haggles with the butcher, holds Kelly on her hip, or stands beside Ethan at the feed store with her chin up and her apron dusted in flour. That one's got grit, folks say. Carrion's lucky. No one asks any more about the day she was bought. They know better now. She hadn't been bought. She had been chosen, and she had stayed. The wedding never happened. Not in a church, not under the eye of any preacher. There were no white dresses or flowers, no rings exchanged before a crowd. What they had was quieter, stronger. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills and cast golden light across the front porch, Ethan brought out a pot of stew and 3 bowls. Clara followed with cornbread and a jar of pickled carrots. Kelly ran between their legs, giggling, her hair wild from the wind. They sat down together at the table Ethan had built with his own hands. 3 wooden chairs, one still too tall for the smallest among them. Sit up now, Clara said, helping Kelly into her seat. The child beamed, cheeks round and sticky with honey. Ethan watched them both, spoon in hand, and his heart felt like it could break from the fullness of it all. Clara caught his gaze. He reached across the table and placed his hand over hers, rough, warm, familiar. No words were needed. When dinner ended and the dishes were done, Clara stepped onto the porch, Kelly in her arms. The child yawned, heavy-lidded, curls clinging to Clara's shoulder. Ethan came behind them, standing close. The wind had stilled. The sky was painted in fire and rose, the sun dragging its heels as if it too didn't want to leave. Clara looked out at the land. Not just his land anymore, their land. Their story. Kelly shifted in her arms, sighing into sleep. Ethan reached out, placed a hand gently on Clara's shoulder. She leaned into it without thinking, and there they stood, 3 figures against the edge of the world, wrapped in silence and belonging. The frontier hadn't tamed itself. The world still judged. But here, in this place of wind and cattle, of fire, light and storms, they had built something no one could take. Clara had not given birth to Kelly, but she had raised her, loved her, fought for her, and in every real way, that made her mother. She had not asked for Ethan's love, but she had earned it, and he had earned hers, not with grand declarations, but with steadiness, with quiet honor, with the simple, profound act of staying. As the last light vanished and the stars broke open overhead, Clara pressed a kiss to Kelly's forehead, then looked at the man beside her. The two of them had become close over the descent, over the night, over the days, over and over, and she smiled, because love, real love, was not in blood or law. It was in choosing each other again and again, even when the world said you shouldn't. Out here in the Wild West, love didn't always come in wedding dresses or ride in on white horses. Sometimes it arrived in a storm, in a child's laughter, in a man's quiet strength, and in a woman's choice to stay, not because she had to, but because her heart had finally found a home. Clara was never just a widow. She was a mother by love, a partner by courage, and the heartbeat of a ranch that once stood empty. Now, I do want to ask you all something. Have you ever done something because you love it so much, and it has nothing to do with blood or law? This is why I like making these videos. I want to see stories being told that inspire people to be the best version of themselves. If this story stirred something in you, if it reminded you that love is built, not bought, then go ahead and tap that hype button to let us know you're riding with us. And don't forget to subscribe to Saddle and Sixgun for more tales of honor, heartbreak, and passion set against the dust and danger of the American frontier. We'll see you on the next ride. Don't forget to check out these videos below.